Well, hello, here we are for Q&A. Go ahead and get started. Okay, Donna Conrad. Since both of you had relatives that followed Joseph Smith and Brigham Young's teachings many generations ago, were any of your relatives polygamists? Good question. Yes, Papa O came from...
It became, our prophet had a revelation, and like in the Old Testament, plural marriage started up, and there were a lot of very strict rules about it. And my great-great-grandfather, I'm from his first wife, and he had multiple wives.
Who's your great-great-grandfather?
Heber C. Kimball.
Okay.
And he was the first counselor to Brigham Young, the one that led the saints into Salt Lake City. So I'm from his first wife, the one he loved the most.
The late Mary.
The late Mary, yes.
Yeah, she said, I remember to say that I'm your favorite, the first and the favorite.
And when we used to go to family reunions, we would stand up according to which wife we were from, and I thought it was kind of amusing. It was just interesting. I thought. Today, it's been the church does not practice polygamy anymore, and it's about 150 years ago it was discontinued, and there are some break-offs from our church that practice polygamy. They're just small groups of people that kind of give us a bad name, but we respect the law of the land, and the law of the land was against that, and so we respect the law of the land, and the church as a whole respects the law of the land, and so it gave up that practice.
Yeah, that's right. But so Joe comes from a polygamous family. I don't remember reading anything in mine.
No, it's because you didn't come over with the pioneers. You came over from Switzerland.
England.
Switzerland, yeah.
Yeah, England and Switzerland. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. Now, if you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and you practice polygamy, you will be excommunicated.
That means kicked out.
That means
and your name is crossed off.
You're no longer a member. So we believe in obeying the law of the land, as Joe said. Okay, Bonnie Barber, I was pondering all day if when Jesus returns, will we be transformed and made new at that time, or will we still be our old selves for the entire 1,000 years? What do you think? No, we won't be our old selves.
There are not a lot of details about it. There's some general things that we're told.
When the 1,000 years comes, from what we understand, all those babies that had died, you'll be able to raise those children during that time.
Yeah, that's good.
And when you come, there won't be any death during the 1,000 years. When you reach the age of a tree, which is about 75 years old, then you will be transformed, or twinkled, they call it. And
you call it.
I call it twinkled. And then you'll be resurrected instantly, and you will be about 30 years, 25 years old, which is nice. And then she asks, when Jesus comes, will everyone still be here, or will it just be the believers? Will there still be people who still don't believe during the 1,000 years, and will babies still be born during that time?
Good question.
Yes, these are all really good questions. Yes, on will everyone still be here, or will it just be the believers? The wicked will be destroyed, and I wouldn't say just the believers, those that are good people, that are good. There'll be people that are not believers that will still be here, but they'll be very good people. And it's not just going to be one religion. There's going to be a lot of different religious people here, but they'll be good people. The wicked destroyed, the righteous will remain. And then during the 1,000 years, will babies still be born? Yes. Yes, babies will still be born, but we won't have to taste of death. And they'll just be the babies that didn't get to be raised will be raised during that time? And these are all really good questions. And Jesus will reign. There'll be 2 kingdoms in Jerusalem and in Missouri. And that's, Jesus will be the leader of the world.
Yeah, those 2 capitals, there'll be a capital in Jerusalem, and then there'll be a capital in America.
In Missouri, yeah.
Missouri,
yeah. So these are all really good questions. Okay, let's move on to Kimberly Niven. I just love your family. You always have so much fun. That's nice of you to say. So what occupations do your sisters have? Just curious. They are also very sweet.
Most of them are housewives.
Been stay at home. I don't like to call us housewives because we're not married to the house. We're not the wife of the house. So we're stay-at-home moms. We stay at home. And gosh, we mostly find jobs that we do at home. Like my sister Sherry's always worked with her husband in the carpenter shop behind their house. My sister Kathy, she helps run their dairy farm. She feeds the calves and takes care of them. And me, I've always been at home, and I've tied flies, I've sewed colors on shirts, I've made baby changing pads. These are all at home. Is that it on me? And then Judy, my sister, she's always worked at home repainting furniture. Jane, she worked at the school in the lunchroom where you're home when the kids are home and you're gone when the kids are gone, which is just perfectly fine. That's the best way to do it, and you're off on vacation when they are. And my sister Connie, she had her own business where she would just take her babies to her own business, and she had a room in there where they could play and stuff. So she took the kids to her business, and she did the baby changing pads, which I sewed for, I don't know, 20 years. And then my sister Lisa worked in the lunchroom, and where she's home, the kids are home, and where they're gone, the kids are gone. So, yeah. So that's just how we've always done it. And yes, my sisters are sweet, and Joe's sisters, they've always been they haven't had children yet, and they married later on in life. And Joe's sister worked at the LDS church office, genealogy office, yeah. And Amy, she had various jobs, and they both live in Norway now.
Married to Norwegians.
Married Norwegians out there that they found online, actually.
On the Mormon or LDS church site.
Yeah, so they're both out there. And they've come to visit a couple times. Okay, Anne Mangum. Have you started on your Christmas jammies yet? Nope, not yet. How long does it take you to make so many, and how did this tradition come about to be? Good questions. Yeah, I haven't started yet. Jimmy Joe will probably come visit in June or July, so I'll want to have them done by then. And it takes me about...
She makes the pants or the bottoms, and we buy the t-shirts.
Buy the t-shirt, yeah. And it takes me about 15 minutes per jammies. It takes me about 4 hours to cut everything out. Then I just start sewing. And I sewed them all Christmas Eve one time. I don't recommend you do that. It probably took me 6 hours. Something like that. I just sewed till about 6 o'clock in the morning, and then got a couple hours sleep. I thought I could do that, but I don't recommend that. It's better to start earlier. But I better get going on that, because we're in April and Jimmy Joe will be here June or July, so I got a couple of months. But it doesn't take that long. I just picture myself sewing at an assembly line. Before I got married, I sewed the left fly on men's pants, men's tennis shorts, and you just sew all day. So boom, boom, boom. You just sew a certain part on the pants. And so I just think of myself, what if I were at a plant making jammies? I could easily get 40 done in a 8-hour shift. Okay. It was good questions. Okay, Bonnie. She was wondering if she... tell how our siblings met our mates. Okay. Why don't you start with yours?
Mine were not married when they were up to their 50s, right?
Yeah, Bonnie was 50 and Amy was 60. And Bonnie, her friends were telling her, you got to get on this LDS website. This is when the internet was just starting to come about, and it wasn't real popular yet. And they just kept telling her, we got this guy picked out for you, and she goes, oh, I don't know. And so they just I don't know if you call it chatted or texted back and forth. Bonnie finally says, okay, I'll go online and check this guy out. And she didn't know if he was a weirdo or what. And her friend, she says he's a good guy, and he's clear out in Norway. And so for 2 years, they called on the phone and texted back, in the chat room, back and forth. And finally one day he says, I'm coming out to meet you. And he had been married before and had a couple of kids that were older. Came and met her up at Salt Lake Temple. They knew each other quite well, but they wanted to meet and see if there's any sparks flying. And that's how they met. And he proposed to her on the temple grounds and got married. And she went back to Norway with him because that's where his 2 kids are. And then Amy, she met her husband through her sister. It was his friend. It was Trond's friend, Jan Erik. And then she went out there and married him. But they only had a short... Oh, and they chatted for like 2 years before they actually met, and they got married. And then he got, unfortunately, he got cancer and died after only about 3 years marriage. So, and then I'll quickly go, since I have so many siblings, I'll quickly go. My mostly dances and someone else introduced, but I'll quickly go. Roy, they met at a church function. They called it M&M Gleaners back then. And Brent, my sister Sherry introduced those 2. And then Roy, Brent, Chris, he met his girl while he was in New Zealand on a mission. And then then they got divorced later. And then his second wife, I introduced him, and then they got married. And then Sherry. Oh, Sherry, she met her spouse through my Grandma Lee. Grandma Lee was doing a dating service, and instead of putting Stephen's and Sherry's names in the computer, she just matched them up herself. So Grandma Lee put those 2 together. And then my sister Kathy, they met at a church function where the girls would bring a picnic and the boys would pick out what picnic they wanted, and then whatever girl came with that picnic. And he came and asked me, he says, which one's Kathy's picnic? And so I told him I wasn't supposed to do that, but he wanted to meet Kathy. So I told him which picnic it was, and then they got married. And then I met Joe at a dance, and my sister Judy met James at high school. And Jane got met her husband through her twin Judy. And then who's next? Connie. She met her spouse at a dance. And then Slade, they met through my sister Judy. Her dad lived down the road, and so she matched those 2 up. And then Brad, I put those 2 together. She was in our ward, and I said, oh, she would make a good wife for Brad. And so I've matched up 2. And let's see, who's next? Ben, they met at high school. And then Elisa, they met at did she meet Rob at a dance? And then they got divorced later, and then she met her other spouse through friends. They were just friends. So those are how those all met. Either dance through somebody else, or dance through somebody else, or at school. But those are good questions. But let's see. We'll save some more questions for later, because we've been kind of going for a while. All right, so we'll end with a couple of quotes, and we just love the Q&As. They're just really fun, and we still have great questions. Oh, it still amazes me. Okay, why don't you pick out a couple of quotes?
Those who are filled with the love of Christ do not seek to force others to do better. They inspire others to do better.
Yeah, you can't force somebody to do better. Even God knows that. They just do better because they're inspired. That's right. And don't become weary of doing good. Just keep doing good. And another quote's kind of in my head. It says, whether you think you can, or whether you think you can't, you're right.
Oh, right. Good.
All right. Well, thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We love the comments, love the questions. Just keep them coming, and make sure you ring that bell because you get notified when we post something new, and we post every day at 2. Thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and good night, everybody.